know, we've been studying the book of James over the last couple of weeks. Today we're going to be looking at James chapter 3, and a lot of it talks about our words. It talks about how wise people use their words carefully because our tongues can be like a fire. It can cause damage. And
Especially after spicy food.
Yes, and what's incredible is that since James is kind of like Proverbs and that it's about wisdom, it's about how Christians ought to live, it just reminded me of how in the book of Proverbs itself, when you go through it, there are so many verses, so many little proverbs that talk about the way we speak, how a wise man speaks in a certain way versus a foolish man who speaks in a certain way. And they're all over the place, and it just, I think, demonstrates that a lot of wisdom comes from the way that we use our words, the way we speak, the things we talk about, the words that we purposely choose to use. And so tonight we're just going to highlight some lessons on how to use our tongue properly.
That's right. So the first one, and if we're looking at James 3, verses 1 through 12, we see that your words can either build people up or they can tear them down. And so as we're, with that topic, as we're thinking about it, what are some ways that words can negatively affect the people around us? I mean, some examples would be the way gossip affects people, right? When a half-truth gets kind of blown out of proportion, people are talking behind your back, words are being used that are making a situation worse. And then what about the tone of voice? The way we say things, man. I've had people share things with me. I'm like, I don't know what you mean by those words. Your words sound nice, but you sound a little harsh in the way you're saying it.
Yeah. Well, because so much of the reality is, we've heard this saying our whole life: sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. I think it's the opposite. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can hurt me further. Words have the potential.
Yeah, that hurts, and so the words.
You see, because when we use our words to cut, it demonstrates that we think something true about someone, whether we actually believe it or not, in a negative light, if we're not careful.
Right.
It talks about how the tongue it's like a spark that sets a fire, because we've all been burned by words before.
Right.
And I think all of us, when we think about it, can think of a time where we've really either been hurt or have really hurt someone by poor word choice. And God calls us to be completely different. That's why James is challenging us to think differently and to use our words differently.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about conversations, right, that we have. Conversations aren't neutral. You don't just walk away from any conversation with no feeling. Either you're like, oh, that was kind of an awkward conversation, or, oh, that was a great conversation, or I feel mad because they said this, So think about it this way. When we're talking with people, are you honoring or dishonoring people or God in that conversation? Because people are made in God's image. And so that's one of the reasons why it's so important that we learn to be intentional about our words and our word use. And so ask yourself these things just real quick. Like, am I about to honor or dishonor someone in what I'm about to say? Am I about to build someone up or tear someone down? Am I about to respect or demean that person? So pause before speaking or writing, because writing words or speaking words can be very powerful. And so stop before you write or speak and think about that. Can I help, right? Can I help choose a more honorable path in my communication at that moment?
Yeah, because guys, it's so hypocritical of us as believers, especially, for us to say, God, I thank you, I praise you. James writes about this. How dare we bless God and curse man who is made in his image? We can come to youth group even and be like, you're dumb, you're stupid. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you. Then we finish like, you make me upset, or and it's not that making you upset, but you use your emotion to say something rude or hurtful, and it's like, this is not the way it should be.
Right.
Because here's the reality: when we use our words to cut, or we use our words to hurt or burn, there's a long-lasting effect that whether we meant it or not, that can go with our words.
Right, absolutely. The second thing that we were thinking about that really stood out is words produce uncontrollable results.
Yep.
They really do. I mean, once you've said something, it's out there. You can't really roll it back in and, take it back. You could say, I take that back, but it's spoken. And it's been heard. And you could ask for forgiveness, and that's there. But after speaking or writing hurtful words, you can't completely erase the experience the person had with your message. See, that's something that we don't often think about. That when we say this, we can apologize and move on, but there is still an experience that stays with us. I've heard people, and they're, where you say, I forgive you, but I'm not going to forget. There's wisdom in that, but also it just shows that there is something that stays with us.
Yeah, guys, it's really important to use what is talked about as like word economy. That your words all have a price. So the ones that you use, choose carefully and intentionally and purposefully, so that you don't hurt people, so you don't tear them down unintentionally. Because we can all say foolish things in our anger or in our frustration. But one thing that can help us with this is having wisdom. And by representing the character of God. We're running a little bit out of time, but at the end of this chapter, James talks about how the wisdom of this world is where this broken relationship comes in, because we can have jealousy and selfish ambition, and with that comes disorder. But the wisdom from above, from heaven, is what is pure and peaceable, gentle, reasonable, full of mercy and good fruits, unwavering, without hypocrisy. And the seed whose fruit is righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So peace. We're talking about words and how we use them, and be careful, measure your words, right? Watch your tone, how you speak. But man, they produce, when we actually take this time and effort, they produce an atmosphere that people can feel when they walk in a room. Are you a person that is safe? Are you a person that is creating peace? Because people are out there that are hurt, and they need a place like that. That's the awesome thing about believers. When we work these, we won't be perfect. But when we attempt to do this, attempt to honor God, and then people come into that atmosphere where we're trying to do this, people are blessed.
Yeah, guys, we want to be a culture and a people that represents love, grace, mercy, gentleness. And if people come into our midst and they hear us beating each other up with our words, or saying rude things to each other, or gossiping, what does that communicate about Christ?
Right, we have to be different.
Jesus says that it is what comes forth out of our man. It is our words that flow from our heart that defiles us if we aren't careful.
Right.
And so, guys, our challenge is really simple. Live wisely with your tongues. Be wise in the way that you speak. Because imagine if we were wise people who spoke with peace and patience and gentleness.
Absolutely.
Proverbs, the book of Proverbs, chapter 15 says that a gentle tongue is like a tree of life. And it's like, we want to speak life. We want to speak love wherever we go. So, guys, we challenge you. When you're at home with your family, extend extra patience, extend extra peace.
Love you guys.
That's what we got. We love you guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye.